Hello, hello. Good to see you all back again. The chat is already active, which is what I love seeing. Thank you for tuning in. So, today, the topic is male jealousy and female jealousy are fundamentally different. This is my first solo show in about a week. I've had a lot of guests on this show the last few days. Check them out after you're done watching this live stream. If you haven't already seen my interviews, Men Are Talking and some Tales from a Hot Girl. It's been a fantastic week. Welcome to all my lovely bin chickens. It's good to see you all back in the chat. Thank you very much, Black Burr, who has just bought my book. And look at this straight from the horse's mouth. Currently, you've confirmed my theories by page 14. Look at that. Money well spent. Well, you're very welcome, sir. Put it into action. Don't just read it. Put it into action. Okay? That's what I want you to do. Go out and implement it. It is been impossible for me to keep up with the live streams. Correct. I just got off set, so that's why this stream is kind of late and out of the blue. But I'm glad you're still awake, Arton. Keep tuning in. We won't make this too long. We'll get through it as quickly as we can. The next bit of housekeeping over the next week. So I'm off to Miami on Tuesday. So the next week's worth of live streams will probably be a bit shorter. It won't be too long. I might do one interview during that week, maybe, if we can schedule it. But it's going to be a lot of solo stuff, and it's going to be a lot shorter. So I'm going to try and come up with some punchier subjects. So in the comments section below, if you have some topics you'd like me to cover, like me to do an episode on, like my take on them, drop it in the comment section below. I'll check it out over the next few days, and we can put some shorter, punchier live stream together for you guys, for the stuff you specifically want to see. So, where do we start? Well, yeah, correct, Eric. Post-nut clarity. Yes. I mean, these days I feel like I have post-nut clarity 24/7 these days. It's just a superpower of mine now. Anyway, the topic of today's presentation, and I've seen Barry's comments in the live chat already. I'll get to you, Barry. It's good to have it's good to have someone to bounce off of who disagrees with my topic. So it's great. It's a good start. We welcome respectful disagreement here. We're trying to learn. We're trying to improve ourselves. So that's good. It's a good thing, you know. I know a lot of people come from Twitter, where Twitter is this like nuance is not allowed on Twitter, right? So and everyone just gets offended, and everyone takes things the wrong way, and so I made this tweet. I put this tweet out. Let's bring this up on the screen. Chrome tab, 11 p.m. That should be the one. Boop. Yes, cool. So this was the tweet that I put out. Man, look at this. First of all, look at this lovely overlay I've got. See these little gentlemen down in the corner here? You know, checking out my, recording my tweet on the moon. The quality of this production is going up every day, and I hope you're noticing, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, if Anna's in the chat somewhere. So, I put this tweet out a couple of days ago. Wait, what, was this yesterday? Actually, yesterday. Female jealousy is based on insecurity. For example, abandonment. I'm not valuable enough to secure this man's protection and resources. Cool. Now, note, nobody disagreed with that. It's a very important thing to note right off the bat. And here's the thing. When I put out tweets like this, right? Whenever I put out any kind of tweet, oopsie, hit my camera. Let's move the camera back in. Whenever I put out any kind of tweet about like male nature, female nature, that a woman could potentially misinterpret, and believe me, there's a million ways that anyone could misinterpret tweets, and that's one of the beautiful things about Twitter, is that sort of it allows for misinterpretation and thus arguments and outrage. So anytime I put out something on Twitter about male and female nature, I basically immediately expect to get banned, or not banned, I immediately expect to get cancelled. And here's the reason why, because I have a lot of female followers on Twitter, right? A lot of these female followers happen to be my work colleagues, my co-stars. It's very different from a Twitter anon. A lot of these anon accounts on Twitter who have, they don't show their faces, you don't know anything about the person, and a large chunk of their following are just dudes. So they don't get the kinds of, they're not putting their ass on the line, kind of like I am sometimes. And to be honest, I actually expected a lot more hate from this tweet when I put it out. But I didn't get... I was expecting women to sort of to kind of get angry about the first half of this tweet, right? That female jealousy is based on insecurity. That didn't happen at all. So everyone sort of kind of accepts that first half of this statement, right? No one really disagrees with it. The second half of the statement, though, this is where people start disagreeing. Male jealousy is based on a fear of loss, specifically a fear of loss of investment, e.g., cuckoldry. I've spent time and resources on her, and the kid isn't even mine. Now, I don't mean, and here's where, I'll pull this down for a second. I don't mean, and here's where I think a couple of these porn girls, because I'll show some of the replies to this this tweet, so we can get an idea of the discussion around this. And a lot of people who reply to this kind of immediately assume, when I talk about, especially because I come from the porn industry, when I talk about cuckoldry, I'm talking about the fetish, cuckolding fetish. Talking about the kind of guys, they immediately link the two together and assume that, if I'm referring to cuckolds being jealous, that I'm referring to guys who have a cuckold fetish. That is absolutely not what I'm referring to. And Rollo Tomasi actually jumped into this Twitter thread and kind of backed me up. So, and I will get to the chat. We'll have a bit of a back and forth discussion in the chat, but I want to get through some of these replies in the tweet first because it sort of lays some of the foundations for my argument. So where is the next one? Let's share that one. 20. The next one would be... Oh, not that one. No. One second, gentlemen, just so I figure out which tab I'm looking for. 127, this one, cool. So this was the very... And it took maybe like 10 minutes max after tweeting that original tweet for this reply to come in. Now, I know... I don't know, great. I have met Adrena Winters before. I've met this girl. She is a porn performer back in England. I've met her when she's come out to the USA for AVN. We haven't shot together. We haven't worked together. We have some mutual friends. So there's not like this person just a complete anon who I've never talked to. So Adrena says, and there's a lot of really interesting things here. This is why I thought this was a good topic to talk about today. She says, are you trying to say only women can be insecure? Note that I do not say that anywhere in the tweet. So, obviously, no, that's not what I'm saying. Are you trying to say only women can be insecure and not men? So that's like the first half of what she just said. Well, no, obviously. Obviously, men can be insecure. Yes, I'm not denying that at all. My argument is that male jealousy is not rooted in insecurity, like female jealousy is. Okay. So you'll see this a lot. Like anytime you sort of, and this is like partly a Twitter phenomenon, and it's partly a woman phenomenon. If you try to make like an astute observation on something, people, because notice how I didn't mention that men can't be insecure anywhere in my statement. They immediately leap to conclusions, and based upon their like, if you say something that kind of shakes up someone's worldview, disagrees with someone's worldview, then they start to leap to conclusions and try to connect dots that aren't there. This will always happen, okay? Especially in a place like Twitter, where there's no room for nuance, really. It's different if I'm sitting here and talking to somebody face to face. Very different situation. All right. And so the second half of the reply is, and also I've never met a jealous cuckold in my life. So, again, this goes back to my original, what I said a second ago. I'm not referring to, like, cuckolds who have a fetish for cuckolding. You know what I'm saying? When I say this. Although, yes, I've never been a jealous cuckold in my life, right? Although I would say, interestingly enough, I would say that if someone has a cuckolding fetish, then they, by default, need to have some degree of insecurity, right? So, and this is not me sort of disagreeing with my own argument. But if someone fetishizes cuckolding, then by default they don't believe that they are. They believe that they get off on being told they're inferior, right? So there has to be some degree of insecurity in that. Right? Rollo Tomasi jumps in behind us and sort of and behind this comment and look, where's my little thing? This is called social media cringe. Nothing Rollo Tomasi says is cringy. Let me just start with that in case anyone might misinterpret that. Absolutely nothing this man says is cringy. This man is a goddamn genius as far as I'm concerned. He replies back to her, because cuckolds condition themselves to eroticize their jealousy, to eroticize their innate jealousy instinct. And that's kind of what I was alluding to. Instinctual jealousy isn't what I'm talking about, right? Is linked to mate guarding and men's evolved interests in assuring the paternity of their potential children. And this is what my statement is about, right? It's about the idea that men, because here's where I really want to get your input in the chat right now, okay? To all the gentlemen watching right now, think back to a time in a past relationship when you felt jealous, and think back to a time when you thought your potential spouse might be cheating on you, and here's a few things here. She might be either she's cheating on you, or she's breaking a rule she has for you and doing it for somebody else, right? Or she's giving attention and affection to another man, right? A partner of yours, right? And we're assuming it's like an exclusive, monogamous kind of situation for ease of argument's sake, right? Think back to those moments, right? When you when you were actively jealous, because someone else replied in this thread. I had another fan jump into the thread as well, and they said something along the line, which I replied. They said something, and it kind of resonated with what I was alluding to, is that when guys feel jealousy, right, and in the examples I just gave, where your partner gives affection to another man in a way that makes you uncomfortable, or they just straight up cheat on you, right, or they do something for somebody else that they have a rule that they don't do with you, right? If you're in an open relationship, that could be sexually, or if it's a monogamous relationship, that could, I don't know what kind of example I'm thinking of, but maybe they bake someone a cake and they never bake you a cake, right? Maybe they bake a cake for this male friend of theirs, but they never bake a cake for you, right? That might be an example of what we're referring to here. This little, there we go, green screen's perfect. Think long and hard. Think introspectively about the emotion. Try to bring that emotion up again, and think introspectively about what's actually going on in your head, or in your gut rather. And I honestly think because I've spent the last couple of days thinking about it, and I honestly think that you'll find it is less. It's not a feeling of insecurity. It's more of a feeling of betrayal. Right? I'll say that again. It's not when men get jealous, it is more akin to a feeling of betrayal. Like based around the fact that they've invested time and energy, resources, attention into a woman, and she is then giving preferential treatment, shall we say, to another man. So it feels like a betrayal to them. It doesn't mean they feel like that is not insecurity. There's nothing there about like, oh, I am not comfortable in my self-worth. That's nothing to do with that. It's the same as if someone, it would be the same kind of feeling as if one of your best friends stabbed you in the back. It's that same kind of betrayal feeling and a loss of investment feeling. Right. Now, there was a couple more. Yes, that's fine. I don't need to show that one. Bed ball from Roller. Roller jumps in one more time here. Where are we at? 227. This one here. Oh, this one. He jumps in again. Yeah, just, backing up his statement with some of his essays. Jealousy. Let's zoom in on this one a little bit more. Zoom in on this one. Yeah. He's just reiterating his point. Jealousy in women only occurs when a man's sexual market value, actual or imagined, is perceived to be higher than a woman's. Women don't make guard beta schlubs. And that's an interesting point. So, yeah, women's jealousy is based around the insecurity of like, because you have to think about all this stuff in the context of caveman days, right? Because jealousy isn't this. Jealousy isn't a rational thought. It's an instinctual emotion, an instinctual emotional reaction to something. It's a pre-programmed response in our DNA, right? It's not something that we're rationally thinking about, and then the emotion's happening, right? It's just it's reactionary. Now, where was I going with that bit? So we had Rollo talking about, sexual market value. Women don't make guard betas. Yes. So, women's insecurity, or women's jealousy being based around insecurity, right? Is, you think about it. Back in the day, caveman days, woman got pregnant, she's fucked. If she doesn't have a man to protect her and guard her and give her resources, because she is pregnant. There's saber-toothed tigers running around. There's a woolly mammoth that could step on her at any moment. I don't know. Other dudes looking to, like, just, for want of a better word, like, sexually assault her, perhaps. Because this is reality back in the day. So if she gets pregnant, she's in a very, very vulnerable situation for an extended period of time, right? So in order for her and her offspring to not die, she needs a dude around to stick with her, to protect her, to provide her resources. Okay, so if her man is wandering off, sleeping with other women, that jealousy drive kicks in because the imminent threat of her being abandoned is looming. If she can't keep him around, if she's not valuable enough for him to keep investing his time and resources in, then she's fucked. She's dead. She's very literally dead in that world, caveman days. Okay, so that's how we have to look at the context there. And again, no one really disagreed with that initial statement, which I find quite interesting. But the second thing, the other thing to take from this sort of little bit of a discussion on Twitter, right? It's a very good example of solipsism in women. And actually, I need to bring up a second reply to this to illustrate this point a little bit further. 6:45. This one, screen share. This one, and it's unfortunately, which is weird, and I don't know why she did this, but she deleted her replies. She deleted her initial reply to my tweet and then the follow-up to this first tweet. So if I can recall correctly, so this is my friend Amber. She's back in the UK. She's a porn performer. We get along great. We don't have any beef. There's no problem here. And her initial response to my tweet was something to the effect of, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't see the tweet, obviously. It was something like, no, I disagree. My ex didn't invest a penny into me. He didn't spend something along the lines of, my ex didn't spend any money on me, but he was still jealous as hell. Right? That was her initial response. And so my obvious follow-up to that is, well, he invested his time and attention, though. Right? That's energy. Investing doesn't necessarily mean money and resources. Right? So he did invest in her. Which is weird. I don't know why she would have deleted that tweet, but whatever. And then her second follow-up, which was also deleted, was something along the lines of, nah, he had a really tiny dick. It was definitely insecurity. And what's the first thing that every woman responds with when it comes to, like, you know, arguments about, like, male insecurity? Oh, the fragile male ego. Look, there's nothing more fragile than a female ego. Let me tell you right now. Anytime anyone brings up the idea of, like, fragile male ego, I just have to laugh, because women have the most fragile egos in the world. And and I'll tell you exactly why. If I had, back to the previous replies to this tweet, if I had started to disagree with Adrena Winters, who was the first reply to this tweet, it could have escalated into, like, her taking offense, like, very, very quickly with just a few disagreements. And I'm sure you've all seen stuff like this floating around on Twitter. You know, that's a fragile ego right there. You can't even have your worldview questioned ever so slightly without getting all outraged. But then she follows up, Amber also follows up at the very end. On a serious note, though, I'd say that feeling bitter over investing time, resources, and effort comes under resentment. I think both sexes feel jealousy in the same way. I don't think they... Sorry, obviously I disagree with them, but... And it's not necessarily feeling bitter over the investment. It's like feeling a loss. Again, it's feeling a loss of the investment. It's the feeling of, I put time and effort into this woman, and now the fruits of my labor are gone. I'm not there, right? So let's rewind back time to caveman days. Let's rewind to caveman days and look at the second half of my argument, which is that male jealousy is based around a loss of investment. And I have to use, like, the term cuckolding, because that's literally what cuckolding means. You know, it's like somebody else got, like, you're raising a child that isn't yours, basically. If we're looking at, like, the base definition of it. And interestingly enough, if anyone isn't aware of where that word comes from, it comes from the cuckoo bird, because the cuckoo bird is a bird that lays its eggs in another bird's nest and gets the other bird to actually raise its young. And you can see photos of this. It looks funny because it's like the cuckoo bird's like gigantic, and it's the mother will be sitting there like this other bird will be feeding its chicks, and then this giant chickling that is the cuckoo bird. So that's where the word cuckolding actually comes from. So, caveman days. I have a primary partner, and I'm spending time and resources hunting and hunting to, you know, feed my wife, or feed my cave wife, and keep her safe. But I find out, say I've been doing this for a few months while she's pregnant, and then I find out she's secretly running off and flirting with another caveman and giving that caveman massages and cooking that caveman's meals or whatever. Or he's just banging her behind the bushes, whatever it is. Then I have just wasted my time, my energy, my resources, and put my life at risk if we're talking about caveman days, because I'm competing with saber-tooth tigers and stuff. I've invested all that time and energy, and I can't get it. I don't see any fruits for my labor. And what I mean by that is I don't see any genetic fruits for my labor, because all this stuff is biological. Because why would I care? Like, why would I actually care? You know, if the kid isn't mine, and it's selfish gene theory, right? It's because I need to. We come from a time. We evolved from a time when there's very, like, life is dangerous, death is looming and imminent at any moment. Survival and reproduction are, like, the two primary drives. Women know they can pass on their genes because they are the birthers. They give birth to the children. Men need to try and pass on the genes before they die. Otherwise, the genetic lineage stops with them, right? So that's why. And here's how you know, like, it's a programmed evolutionary response to get jealous, male jealousy, right? When there's a potential for cuckoldry, right? Because the dudes who didn't get jealous didn't pass their genes on. Do you see what I'm saying? The guys who did get jealous, aka your forefathers, your great infinite great grandfathers, that was part of their biology. That response was part of their biology. So if they got jealous, it means the lady they were investing was unfaithful, and then they probably stopped investing in that woman and started investing in another woman, and thus their genes got passed on, and thus the instinctual trait of male jealousy got passed on, and here we are today, right? So what you'll see, though, is, and looking back at both Adrena's answer and Amber Jane's answer to my initial tweet, and there were actually a bunch of women who liked it, and there was a couple of women who liked it and retweeted it, so I assume they actually agreed with me, because normally if a woman disagrees with you on Twitter, she's going to let you know about it in the comments, normally. But it's a perfect example of solipsism, right? Because it's how they process the world, they assume that is how everyone processes the world, right? It's like solipsism, for those of you who are not really astute to what the word, don't really know what the word means, and don't really know how to use solipsism in context. Solipsism is basically the inability to see the world from another person's perspective, and to think that your worldview is the worldview. Your worldview is reality. That's probably a better way of saying it. So it's a perfect example of that, with these couple of women replying to this, right? And it serves a double purpose, actually, because it's solipsism in the sense that they don't see how anyone else could have a different, kind of basis for jealousy, and it's a convenient shaming tactic for them to say, oh, it's a convenient shaming tactic to support hypergamous behavior, right? Oh, you don't like me flirting with other dudes? You're just jealous. You should stop being jealous so that I can go flirt with other dudes and potentially get dicked down by them, have their babies, and you can raise them, right? So it's a very convenient thing for women to convince men that their jealousy means they're insecure, so that men will they'll actively try and suppress it themselves, and that's the society we're in right now, right? I mean, that's pretty obvious. To coin a phrase from Rollo Tomasi, he would go around saying we're in a gynocentric society. And this kind of narrative is being pushed all the time, right? But here's the thing, society hasn't been able to program that jealousy response out of men, despite all its efforts, despite every bit of mainstream literature on the topic saying, oh, you're just insecure if you're a man and you get jealous. That being bombarded doesn't stop men from still feeling that emotion. That emotion, again, I liken it to an emotion of betrayal. It's kind of the visceral response, right, of jealousy. And here's the thing: the biggest lie that sort of gets one of the biggest lies that kind of gets circulated in men's self-help or areas, or in particular men's dating advice kind of areas, is that the idea that mate guarding is somehow beta, right? So mate guarding is, oh, I'm gonna stop so this is the woman I'm gonna choose to invest in, time and resources, energy. I want to get this woman pregnant, or whatever, and I'm gonna stop other men from interacting with her to a degree and trying to basically take her away from me. I'm going to try and limit the opportunities for other men to kind of come in and take her away or impregnate her, right? That's basically mate guarding, right? So the idea that that is somehow beta is well, if you agree with the hypothesis that jealousy is an evolved instinct, right? Then obviously mate guarding goes hand in hand with that innate evolved jealousy instinct, right? Because your great grand ancestors had the reason you have that jealousy instinct is because they passed it down, right? And how would that person have passed it down? Say, going back to the example I gave before, oh, I've invested into this girl for a few months. She's, I find out she's pregnant with another man's baby. I'm like, shit, stop investing in that woman, find another woman, and then I would probably, and then if I've had that experience, like, again, this visceral, emotional, biological response, I'm probably going to mate guard this woman to stop that from happening. Right? So I would argue that a lot of your ancestors mate guarded, and those that didn't pass the genes down, and thus here we are today. Right? So I fundamentally disagree with the idea. Don't get me wrong, I used to buy into this idea. I used to buy into the idea that, you're jealous and insecure if you or you're jealous, you're insecure, or you're controlling if you try to limit the potential for your partner to get fucked by other dudes, right? Let's just say it that way. I used to buy into that as well, so don't get me wrong. But then I have since, especially in the last couple of years, I've met men who do it, and they are not in any way, shape, or form beta or pussies or pushovers. They're quite the opposite. They have boundaries and they enforce them. That is not a beta behavior. That is very much an alpha behavior. The idea of, let's look through history at examples. Kings, sultans, they all, kings, sultans, emperors, khans, they all had harems, concubines, mistresses, and you better believe they guarded them fiercely and beheaded men that tried to come anywhere near them. Why do you think eunuchs were a thing? Eunuchs were a thing, so one, he could a Khan or an emperor or a prince or whatever could guard all of his harem and know that none of them were going to get dicked down by the dudes guarding him because he had shit to do. He was busy. The mere existence. And do you think like a prince is somehow beta? Do you think a man who's willing to chop other men's dicks off, which is, I don't recommend anyone do, by the way. I wouldn't wish that upon my worst enemies. But a man who's willing to have other men's dicks chopped off just for the sake of his sole reproduction, you don't think that's a little bit alpha? I mean, people talk about, I might even get Troy Francis on to talk about this topic exactly. Two people talk about dark triad traits being very, and this is proven, dark triad traits are very attractive to women. That is a perfect example of Machiavellianism, right? Manipulating and setting things up for yourself, for the benefit of yourself, right? Now, I think that was all of the tweets I wanted to cover. And I know I said I was going to get into the chat, but I got in a roll and we've been going for like 35 minutes. So now I probably should go back through the chat and find some... I can already see some stuff I disagree with. Excellent. Where do I even start? God, there's a lot in this chat. All right. There is a lot here. So Barry, yeah, let's start with Barry because he was the first one in the chat, so it makes sense to start with you, Barry. He says, I respectfully disagree. Respectful disagreement is very much welcome here. Very much welcome here. I believe that they're both rooted in insecurity. Okay. Women are never yours. Even a pride of lionesses will leave if a new young lion challenges to become the new alpha. Well, that's all well and good for lions, but that really doesn't back up your argument. You haven't really explained to me why you think male jealousy is rooted in insecurity. The idea that women are never yours, you sort of follow up with here. So how can you be jealous of something that was never yours? So it's like I said, this is an instinctual response. This is not a I'm thinking about it situation, right? It's not logicked into existence. It's stimulus, emotional reaction, emotion. I mean, stimulus, like subconscious interpretation, emotion, then emotion, right? Excuse me. There we go. So the idea, how can you be jealous of something that was never yours? I mean, people throw around this phrase. It's not she's not yours. It's just your turn, right? This is a phrase to help men cope, or to deal with female nature, and to deal with the nature of like women spinning plates, right? And to deal with the just to deal with female nature in general in a very hypergamous society, right? That's what people mean when they say that she's never yours, right? Do you really think, though? Do you really think, though, that a girl that's in a harem of an Arab prince back in the day, a couple of centuries ago, with a horde of eunuchs guarding her, you don't think that she's his? She's never touching another. She doesn't touch another man in her entire life. She only touches her prince. She's not his. She sure as hell isn't anyone else's, that's for sure. So, but I'm happy for you to elaborate your argument. Bought my book, money well spent. Thank you again, Blackbird. Let's keep going. Problematic. I can see it one day. 5,000 live viewers spamming the bin chicken emote in the chat. I need to get. We're gonna start up a private. I'm gonna start up the members subscription side of this YouTube chat, and then put in like we're gonna create our very own bin chicken emojis and various things for you guys to spam the chat with. So I'll get onto that because it seems like everyone wants to do that. Because it's a bit annoying finding the waste paper basket emoji and then the chicken emoji. It's a lot more effort than it needs to go. Danny says, jealousy is a favourite topic of mine after having taken the red pill. Jealousy for a man is weaponized against him. Absolutely. Yes. He's called insecure in his masculinity, etc. Yeah, I completely agree with you, Dan. I'm glad. I'm surprised I didn't use that word before. That's thank you for reminding me of this exact word. Territorial. Bingo. Going back to Barry's, just an example he gave before of like lions and lionesses and stuff. You know, male lions are extremely territorial, right? Because they have access to the whole pride of lionesses. So, another male lion. Male lions, like once they get a certain age, they go off and they roam in packs of male lions and hunt and shit for their own. And then the occasional top dog lion gets to become the pride of a pack, and then he is very territorial. Walruses are another great example of the bulls fighting each other for access to breed with basically all the seals or walruses, female walruses or whatever it is. Sea lions, another good example, on the rock where they're breeding. Right, that is territorial. It's territorial behavior. You see it in gorillas as well. Gorillas will beat their chest and scare away any other male gorillas that try and come in and fuck with his chicks or whatever you want to call them. These gorilla chicks, whatever you want to call them. Let's keep scrolling down. Also, yes, Eric, thank you. Everybody, hit that like button if you haven't hit the like button yet. If you're enjoying this, hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're getting something out of it. I feel like I've been pretty articulate today, it's quite surprising considering I just spent the last 8 hours on set. So I'm very impressed with myself. Caesar says, can someone explain the bin chicken thing to me? Oh boy, okay. Anyone who's new to the chat, the whole bin chicken, it's a trash can, a waste paper basket. In Australia, we call a trash can is called a bin. Okay? Same in England, same in New Zealand. We call them bins. And a bin chicken is the Australian term for an ibis, which is this giant bird that eats out of trash cans and eats out of dumpsters. Okay? And then somebody, for some reason, I think it was Timaeus, at some point, another Australian guy who's in the chat sometimes, he said something about, he called me, he said, you dirty bin chicken or something. I thought it was pretty funny. And so now my chat is called the League of Extraordinary Bin Chickens, which you all are. Because you're not regular bin chickens, you're extraordinary bin chickens. You're the exception, okay? You're improving yourself as far as bin chickens go. Right. Yes, problematic. I would agree with you. Evo Psych does tend to hit a nerve with the more progressive crowds. Yep. There's a good Ayn Rand quote, which goes something like, you can ignore reality all you want, but you can't ignore the consequences of ignoring reality. And I think men find that out a bit too late in their lives when they start having problems with women and things. So, yes. Right. Yeah, following up on Danny's point, a loss of investment is true, so much so that it hurts right to your marrow, your bone marrow when they cheat. Yeah. And if she cheats, yes, did she? Yes. I completely agree. If she's cheating on you, you should never go back to a woman who's cheating on you. Jesus Christ, dudes, have some respect, okay? Yeah, I agree here, Eric. Yeah, women will extrapolate from what a man says and then assume they are saying something else that they clearly didn't say, because they interpret things emotionally. So that's how it goes. Like, so it's like you say something, no matter how logical or true it is, if it hits them emotionally, hits against their worldview, doesn't agree with their worldview, doesn't align with their worldview exactly, it causes an emotional response, and then that emotional response then passes through like the rational part of the brain, and so they have to find a way to rationalize their emotion. So it's like, oh, you meant this thing. That's how they get to those. That's how they get to those conclusions about things you didn't actually say. So there we go. Goddamn timestamps. First time I got to see this live. Why was the word cuckold hashtagged in the post? Because I think I've kind of explained that. Because I mentioned it in my initial Twitter post. Let's go. Good point, Cedar. So do cuckolds rationalize their behavior? Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And Rollo kind of brought that up. He was like, they sort of suppress that innate jealousy and then eroticize it and turn it into a fantasy. Yeah, that's exactly what cuckold fetish kind of is. And even hot wifing is another. So like, when it comes to like pornography, there's a little bit of a difference here. There's a difference between the way that cuckolding is used in porn and the way cuckolding is used like biologically, evolutionarily speaking. So in porn, cuckolding is when a dude gets off on being degraded by his wife while she's being, or by the dude who's fucking his wife, right? And then hot wifing is when he's into it and she's into it and there's no like verbal degradation. Those are the two sort of ways we separate it in pornography. So, but they're still technically cuckolding in the evolutionary biological sense, right? So, especially if the dude gets her pregnant. Anyway, yeah, good point, Danny, about trusting your instincts. And this is something that, like, again, this kind of goes back to the idea of like mate guarding and stuff. Like, we've been taught as men to like, they've been like, the society tries to beat that out of you as a dude. It's like, don't mate guard, don't feel this jealousy is irrational and makes you, and you're insecure if you feel this jealousy. But it's there. It's a biological instinct, and it's there for a reason. So when your spider senses start tingling, maybe you should actually listen to them. Maybe there is some reason that your spidey senses are tingling in regards to this kind of stuff. Yes. Yeah, here we go. Etch a sketch. As a man, we need to trust our gut. If you have suspicions and are feeling jealous, it's probably your subconscious picking up on certain things and warning you. Exactly. I would agree. Yes. I would completely agree. Yes. Barry follows up. I'm not scared about having my girlfriend give birth to someone else's kids because I don't care how offended she gets. Every baby come out of her is getting tested, and me telling her I'm not. Oh, I get what you're saying. Okay, now I get what you're saying. Yeah. So if your girlfriend gives birth to a kid, you're going to have that kid DNA tested to make sure that it's yours, which I think every man should do because we have the technology to do it. I actually think that should be fucking compulsory. Because it's like 10. What I think what's it? Rollo Tomasi quotes the statistic in one of his books, but it's something like, I think it's something like 10%, maybe more, of children are being raised. It's probably more. If someone has the actual number, can remember it from Rollo's book, where he quotes it from, drop it in the chat. But it's at least like 10% of children are being raised, unwittingly being raised by men who are not their fathers, but they think they're the kid's father. At least 10%. And then he also makes this point in his book. Can you imagine if 10% of babies got swapped around accidentally in like the maternity ward and given to the wrong mother? How fucking outraged everybody would be at that level of incompetence. Yet when it's dudes unwittingly raising kids that aren't theirs, no one gives a shit. So I'll just say that. So I agree with I agree with the fact that you want to get your kid's DNA tested. I completely agree with that, Barry. Completely agree with that. However, I would say that, you know, if you've spent time with this girl and then it turns out she has given birth to a child that isn't actually yours, I would imagine at that point you would probably feel that ping of betrayal, of jealousy, of the male emotion of jealousy, which would be a feeling of betrayal because you'd spent time and effort with this woman. Etch a Sketch would say betrayal and also a loss of value in some situations. Most females, not all, in 2020 have no skills, and the only thing they provide exclusive to you is bedroom fun when that gets given away freely. Well, yeah, I would agree with that. It's because women in the West haven't really been taught chick game, or they've been actively told to abandon chick game. So chick game is like guy game is how to get in a woman's panties. Chick game is how to keep a man around, right? And at the moment, in the West at least, all women, the only aspect of chick game that they concentrate on and sort of allow each other to have is sex game. Is like, how good am I in bed, or how big are my tits, or how sexually attractive am I, and they throw everything else away. And everything else is things like being pleasant to be around, doing the dishes, cooking and cleaning, looking after the kids, etc., etc., etc. All these things that would be considered very traditionally feminine roles. You know, taking care of your man, having a hot home cooked meal, waiting for him when he can get home from work. These kinds of things kept men invested in women for centuries. You know, and it's sort of been cast aside now. Make sure I get tested before any names get written on the birth. Yeah, good point there. Yeah, make sure you get the test before any names are written on the birth certificate. Good point. Good point. I mean, you still probably, because then you can prove that it's not yours. You might not have to pay child support. But I think even the laws around that could fuck you over. Maybe. You think Shakespeare invented the word cuckold? Interesting. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure. Did not know that. Problematic. Thank you, Granddad, for being a jealous and insecure prick so I could be here today. Exactly. Bingo. Either way, I would say he was not insecure. I would say, thank you, Granddad, for being a jealous, territorial prick. Thank you, Granddad. You know. Caveman Kevin will be pissed off if Caveman Stacey's giving her body to Caveman Chad. And that's another thing. Like, you used another term here. I'm really you're pumping up reminding my vocabulary, Danny. Thank you. You used another word here: disloyalty. Yeah, so I lump all this sort of stuff together. It's like the male jealousy, the instinctual male jealousy. The feeling is that of betrayal, of disloyalty, right? Yeah, like you thought you had a bond, and then that bond has been broken, you know? when we get to do the same thing, fall in line, share the guy on the other side, ladies. You stay with the woman after she cheats on you. Yep, blah, blah, blah. Jealousy is a feature of toxic masculinity. Embrace it. Yeah, I mean, there's no such thing. Like, look, this. Maybe you're near prototype. Maybe you're kind of a bit tongue in cheeky. Look, there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. All right, embrace your masculinity, gentlemen. Because all these things, if you look deep down, all these things that people complain about, all these progressives and feminists complain about, is toxic masculinity. Is like, it's not very toxic when the house is on fire, is it? All this, you're such a gym bro. Men don't need to work out and be strong and stuff. Oh shit, the house is on fire. Help! Save me! Yeah. Then it's not fucking toxic, is it? Jesus Christ. Where did we get to? I think we had a reply here from Barry somewhere in the chat. Here we go. Barry, I equate alpha and president because cavemen weren't monogamous. They were the alpha that had all the women. Okay. This argument comes from, I think this argument comes from Sex at Dawn. The idea that we were, and I've read Sex at Dawn, and when I initially read it, but I was also blue-pilled. I sort of agree with this hypothesis. In Sex at Dawn, he makes the hypothesis that we came from polygamous societies, and he does look at a couple of sort of remote, I think Indonesian tribes, if I'm correct, that are still polygamous in a way. But that doesn't. But that still doesn't. Then how do you explain like the biological instinct of male jealousy, if we did in fact evolve from that? So there's sort of there's something here that needs to be. And look, maybe I'm wrong, and I'm perfectly willing to concede that I'm wrong. If there's enough evidence that support enough logic and reason and evidence that supports that conclusion, fine, perfectly happy to accept that. But this is where I think the Sex at Dawn argument kind of falls flat. Is like, well, if that was the case, then we shouldn't have this biological response. And on top of that, all of society right now is telling men, all this Western society is telling men, oh, that biological response you have is insecurity. It's you're being, what were the other words used? Controlling, and it's bad, and it's wrong, and it's toxic masculinity, and all this stuff. Like, it's trying to be beaten out of us. But it's still there, you know? So, there's something there, you know? Well, maybe you're right here, Denny. You see solipsism as how progressives, liberals think that their worldview is the only worldview. You might have a point with that. And that might make sense because women tend to be more liberal and tend to be more liberal leaning. So there might be some credence to that. I don't. You're going to start using that. I'm going to limit my partner's attendant's ability to get fucked by other dudes. Well, go ahead, steal that phrase if you like it. Don't forget, smash the like button if you're still watching, or you're watching on the replay. Smash the like button. Helps us show up. Helps get this this content in front of the eyeballs of more people. And this channel's growing pretty quickly. We're at 2,000. We've only been going for about a month and a half. We're at 2,000 subs already, guys. And this is the kind of content that doesn't really share very virally. You know, helping like men's self-help stuff that isn't like a load of bullshit. Men's self-help advice, or men's advice on male-female dynamics that isn't like top 10 reasons to let your girlfriend sleep with other men. That kind of crap gets shared around all day on Google and YouTube. So thank you very much for your support for a start, because it is we're growing despite it being an uphill battle. So, and you, all my league of extraordinary bin chickens, you are the reason for it. Okay. Where did we get to? Never kept them. What's that? Disloyal. Blah blah. Yeah, the irony of falling for these kinds of shaming tactics is that you will actually be punished for them. Correct. If you fall for that shaming tactic, then you're the one that gets screwed over. Yeah, don't ignore your spidey senses about jealousy. Yeah, and a woman will probably cheat if she can get away with it. Yeah, in 2020, yeah, in the West, a girl's gonna cheat on you if she can get away with it. Fuck it, even if she doesn't get away with it, she's probably still gonna do it. If Sterling Cooper, if I bought the book, can I get in the chat? Oh, I think you mean, are you referring to like the members chat that I'm going to create for this? With these super bin chicken emojis? We'll see. We will see. One of Machiavelli's first rules is you only trust men who have truly earned it, and you never trust a woman. Maybe Machiavelli was onto something there. I haven't read The Prince. I should probably read The Prince at some point. I've heard it's pretty good. I'm not going to read that out, Neo Prototype. I've said the word shopping dicks too many times in the stream already. Yeah, it was Timaeus. You were right. So Timaeus, yeah, thank you, Russell. Timaeus was the one who started the whole bin chicken thing. So, but he's not that frequent of a member in this chat. He's just here a few times. But anyway. Well, that's a good point, actually. If your girlfriend's beta orbiters are all trans and have surgery to remove the junk, then you can be the modern-day equivalent of a ancient prince. Oh, not a bad point there, Rick. You're actually probably true. That is yeah, that's a reasonable take. Okay, good question, Henny P. How would you respond if the girl gives you the "Are you jealous?" shit test? Well, you don't. Well, because it's a shit test, you don't fucking. Because here's the thing. Because she's gonna assume. Because when she says, well, yes, you are jealous, but you're male jealous. You're not female jealous, right? So when she says, "Are you jealous?" she is actually asking, "Are you feeling insecure?" Because solipsism, this is the way she interprets jealousy, right? This is her different definition of jealousy, not men's definition of jealousy, right? So when she says that, she's actually asking you, are you insecure right now? Right? And like, it depends what the hell she's asking this for. Maybe you probably need a bit more context for this. But if it's like she's you know, she's flirting with other dudes or something, you could say something like, look, honey, I like my coffee like I like my women, without other men's dicks in them. And then move on from there. Yes, we may or may not be a cult. The League of Extraordinary Bin Chickens may or may not be a cult for liability reasons. All right. But we're not a cult. Yes, we're not a cult. And correct, Eric, we're also not we're definitely not an animal rights organization by any stretch of the imagination. I sit here and I tell you all to eat grass-fed beef and grass-fed lamb and wild-caught salmon. We are not an animal rights organization. If anything, we want animals in our stomachs frequently. Okay. All right, I think we're getting close to. I think I've almost caught up with the chat. Yeah, this is a good point. Yes, I agree. You'll test your kids with 2 to 3 different source location labs, and you'll tell the ex-girlfriends, but not tell them the labs you're getting tested at. It's kind of what you have to do. Yep. Cool. For 9 months. Yeah, I think I already got that. Mentioned that, Eric. Oops, we almost got it. Almost got to it. Almost got up. God damn it! You guys type so quickly that it's hard for me to keep up with you. I could be wrong, but I don't see challenging the alpha as jealousy, but just going for what you want. Not really sure. Are you referring to, like, you know, in the walrus example, like, or like the lion example, like the what would you call them? I think you call them gamma lions coming in and challenging the alpha lion who has a pack. I don't think that's jealousy either. So I'm not sure. I'm not quite sure what you're saying. The reason I'm basically bringing up all your tweets, Barry, is because you're about the only person in the chat right now who's disagreeing with me. As far as I can see so far, you're the only one who's disagreeing with me. So if you're watching this on the replay and you do disagree with my conclusions, please, by all means, tell me in the comments section below, right? Because if I need to do a follow up to this video, I will. If you guys give me some good counter arguments, disagreements in the comment section, happy to do a follow-up video and address those points. I think that'd be great. So if you do disagree, please leave a comment. Uh, if you want to see a great example of male jealousy, check out the 3rd episode of this season's Bachelorette. My wife and I were laughing at it last night. Well, look, Atlas Shrugging, I am not going to be watching The Bachelorette because I have more important things to do, like watch paint dry. Okay, then watch some sappy reality TV. I mean, no offense to you, but it's just not my cup of tea. Yeah, I think you might be right here. I've heard that once you write it on the birth certificate, you still have to pay even if you find out it isn't yours. That would not surprise me. In the West, like paternity and marriage and child support and all this kind of stuff, fuck men over. Really. Like, straight in the ass, no lubrication, no hesitation, full tilt. That's men in like divorce courts and child paternity courts and that sort of stuff. So there you go. Okay, Barry. Yeah. So I think you I think this whole argument comes from, if I'm correct, I think it all comes from sex at dawn. Yeah, and you're probably right. There probably are tribes where this is the case, where everyone shares each other and they raise each other's kids. And that would be a perfect example of hypergamy, right? That's kind of what they're trying to do in the West right now. Like that's like the ideal situation for a woman, really. You know, so I don't disagree that probably exists, but I don't think that is where we evolved from. Is kind of the argument I'm making, because we have this biological response of jealousy, right? You can test for the first 2 years. Blah, blah. All right. Bathe in. Thank you, Danny. I love toxic masculinity. Fucking bathe in toxic masculinity. All right, let's do it. Let's go ahead. Oh boy. Okay, this is an interesting point. I just believe jealousy is like anger. We all have it, but I think it needs to be under control because I personally believe humans are poly. Okay. This is a fundamental. I don't necessarily. Okay. Because there's 2 types of poly, right? There's polygamy and polyamory. 5, is that right? Or maybe those are 3 things. Okay, basically there's a poly version where it's like partner swapping, or there's a poly version where it's like a chick has lots of dudes. There's a poly version where it's like both the guy and the girl partner swap, and then there's the poly version where it's basically a harem where the dude and his girls all have fun together. That, I fundamentally believe, that is the model that makes everybody the happiest. And I'm not joking here. Like, the harem setup, where it's one dude and a few chicks, and they're all having fun together, banging other chicks, exclusive to that dude, the guy is sure as hell happy, right? And if the guy's happy in a relationship, the woman's happy in a relationship. And the second thing is, all these women are happy because they know they're with a dude who is the shit because he's got multiple women around and she's sharing him with them. So it sort of reaffirms her own choices. Her own, like, hypergamy is constantly being reaffirmed just by the fact that she's in a relationship with a dude who has other women. You know? So there is, I don't believe that I also don't really believe we're necessarily biologically programmed to be strictly monogamous, is in pair bond with one person our entire life and until death do us part and stuff, because we have to fight all these biological urges, especially dudes, because we want to fuck everything, right? So that is definitely programmed into us. Doesn't mean that my conclusion about jealousy is wrong, though, right? And look, I kind of agree that I wouldn't disagree with the idea that jealousy is like anger, is in the sense that it is like a instinctual, emotional, visceral kind of response. So, you know. But I don't think you need to control it. I think that's what, you know, feminists would like us to do. I think, you know, what Rollo Tomasi would say, the gynocentric social order would like us to do is like to suppress those any urge, any instincts and urges that are inherently, god damn it, it's loud around here. Those instincts and urges that are inherently masculine. I think you know, the gynocentric social order is determined to try and suppress that kind of stuff. Alrighty. Still, where do we get to? Oh, here we go. Thank you, King of Kings. Yeah, polygyny. Polyamory. Polyamory. That's what I'm thinking. Yes. But again, I think you're agreeing with me. I don't know. I can't tell you the definitions of all of them. Yes. Oh yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Poly, gyne, Greek words. Poly meaning many, gyne meaning vagina. Yeah, the gynecologist. Yeah, so polygyny is what I just described. Yeah, correct. Yeah, polyandry does not really work at all. And you've seen photos of it. We've seen photos. There was like a meme for a while. Thank you, Kebabs. It is a very interesting topic. This is my friend from back in Australia. She's a webcam girl, a very successful one. She's also hot as hell. If you want to find an OnlyFans account to sign up to, follow hers. Oh yeah, because I'm glad you jumped into the chat, Kebabs, because she's running and I called this out. It is currently tomorrow. Is it tomorrow or is it today? It is currently NoFap November. And this is the time of the year when all the OnlyFans girls put their OnlyFans on discount because they're trying to tempt every dude away from because their sign-ups drop because everyone's on NoFap November, so they put all their accounts on discount to try and get as many sign-ups as they can. So there you go. Well, yeah, you're kind of right here. This is the polygyny situation, right? Like my friend back in Australia. Yeah, they're kind of monogamous in a way, but they're monogamous one way, right? All the women are still faithful to the one dude, loyal to the one dude, just like my buddy who has 7 submissives. Yes, and I keep talking about him. We are going to get him on the show. It is going to happen. But not in the next. Maybe not. Maybe when I get back from Miami, we'll have him on. And that'd be quite fun. All right, Atlas, I'm glad to see you normally watching paint dry rather than watching The Bachelorette. Good to hear. There's been mate pairing between tribes of hunter-gatherers in Europe for 8,000 years because of inbreeding. Well, there you go. Not really sure kind of where you're coming from with that statement. Where do we get to? I think I've almost caught up with the chat. Almost caught up. God damn it. Bingo. Yes, I just mentioned that, Adrian. Yes, I am going to interview my buddy back in Australia. We will get him on, but I'll probably get him on after I come back from Miami. Yeah, exactly. And again, I keep bringing up Barry because he's the only guy in the chat who's disagreeing with me right now. I see where our disagreements lie because I believe it's natural that everyone shares each other, but I can't argue that the harem is wrong either. Cool. See, this is good. This is why I said respectful disagreement is encouraged on my channel because we get to conclusions like this. Right? If I sat there and just look, because I know if Barry had dropped his initial comment in somebody else's channel, I can think of a few. What would the response have probably been? The response would probably have been something like, "Oh, Barry, you're a beta simp. Fuck you." Like, it would have been just beratement, right? But where the hell does that get anyone? I mean, yeah, it's kind of funny and it's entertaining. Sure. Call me boring. Fuck you. But by having a bit of a back and forth here with Barry, we've actually come to some kind of some kind of common ground, and then we both learned something. This is kind of what the West was kind of based on, this idea of civil rational debate, and that's how we sort of came to conclusions, and we developed science, and we had politics and things like that. But we live in the emotional age now, and everyone's just like, "Oh, you disagree with me? I burn them at the stake. He said mean words, and I don't like mean words." Jesus Christ! Find out why people think the things they think first. You might learn something. Yes. Correct. Cool. Atlas says he would disagree that humans are poly in general. If that were the case, men would not feel jealousy when their partner slept with someone else. Yet, even in polyamorous relationships, this happens. Well, that's kind of where I'm coming from. It does. The jealousy, and even in poly relationships, the jealousy instinct still kicks in, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean. So, perfect example, what we just talked about, polygyny, right, being one dude, multiple women, like we talked about with like princes having eunuchs and harems and stuff. That prince or that guy is still gonna feel jealous. Still gonna feel jealous if he sees one of his women flirting, potentially fucking another dude. That is still polyamory. It's polygyny, but the jealousy is still there, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean these two things are mutually exclusive, right? Alrighty, where we get to? What are the best resources to learn more of this stuff? I've read all Rollo Tomasi stuff, but what else is out there? Books, podcasts, blogs. This podcast right here, my friend, you're on one. So keep tuning in. Look back through some of my my old videos. You might find something very entertaining in there too, and learn a lot in the process. Oh, interesting. Okay, here's an interesting point. Societies with harems and polygamy are unstable and low IQ. They're definitely unstable. That I absolutely agree with. They're absolutely unstable. Which is why that's one of the I've seen arguments about, like, that's one of the arguments why, you know, Western monotheistic religions, countries founded on monotheistic religions where there's pair bonding and monogamy going on, but build stable societies. Because what happens when you have a bunch of, because, you know, the logical conclusion of having harems and stuff, or polygyny, is when, okay, you've got a bunch of dudes that aren't getting laid, right? They're hanging around, they're not getting laid. What happens when dudes don't get laid? They probably get angry, they got a lot of this pent-up sexual frustration, testosterone flying everywhere, they get angry, they start revolts, you have a revolution, and then they burn down the king's house, and then we start from scratch all over again. So yes, they're completely unstable. So there you go. But I'm not out here trying to build society. We're already in a society. I'm here trying to help guys live their best life. So yes. Eventually, most of your porn co-stars will settle down with a dude, and then decades into the future, all of these dudes will go back and watch your videos. Do you ever think about that? I don't think about the dudes. No, I actually don't think about that, Eric. Because they won't be looking for me. They'll be looking for their partner. They'll be like, this gangbang she got into, she seems to be enjoying it a little bit too much. That's kind of what they'll think. They won't be looking at me. Where'd we get to? Did your walrus comment get shadow banned? I don't know. I didn't see it. Sorry, Danny. I don't get why. Here we go. Thank you, Barry. Couldn't agree more. We need to go back to having civil debates in society. Exactly. Thank you, Barry. And thank you, Barry, once again, for disagreeing with me and doing it in a respectful manner and actually having a dialogue. This is fantastic. Makes for a really good stream, I think. Speaking of which, hit the like button if you enjoy it. Hey, see what I did there? And look, and don't forget to share. If you really enjoy this stuff and you want other people to see it, give it a share. You know, really helps the channel grow. And if you're new, hit the subscribe button and hit the notification bell, and you'll see a hell of a lot more content like this. What do we get to? King of Kings. I don't get why guys pay for pay sites either don't fall into the online porn trap or get the free shit if you must indulge. Why on earth pay these females that you see as a loser slip? So the reason with the OnlyFans thing, the reason they do it is because and we've talked about go back to I've done 2 videos on this topic. One was the OnlyFans. One was a critique of OnlyFans psychology breakdown, and the second one was my interview with Tristan Tate, who runs a webcam studio and he runs multiple girls' OnlyFans accounts. And it comes down to a couple of things. It comes down to connection without the ability to have a connection with somebody without the fear of rejection. And it comes down to sexual attention without the burden of performance. Those were our 2 conclusions as to the allure of OnlyFans specifically. Pay sites Pay sites, it's more of a case of people who have porn habits and people who have a particular fetish and wanting to satisfy that fetish quite a lot. Habitual masturbation, that kind of stuff, where you need sort of new and fresh content all the time. At least that's my my interpretation. Alrighty, where we get to? Okay. Sterling, to be honest, do you end having fun with the girls you get on your show after the show? Don't get me wrong, I know you had them at work. A couple, like basically, I think every girl that I've had on my Tales from a Hot Girl we've shot with before I had them on. All the girls that I've had on the show thus far, we have had sex. Yes. Whether or not we had it like immediately after the stream is 50-50? No, it's not 50-50. There's a few of them. But it's like it does happen, yeah. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you. It does happen. So, but we've basically all already had sex before, except for Blake Blossom. Blake Blossom was the only one that I hadn't had sex with prior to having her on the show. Yeah. So that kind of answers your question. All right. I can't wait for you to play the role of a YouTuber in one of your scenes. I'll be a pro at it. Thank you. Touche. King Solomon had harems, yes. All right. Yeah, basically King of Kings. That's my conclusion. All right, well, that's an hour and 18 minutes on a Twitter thread. How about that? I can talk about anything. Well, again, thank you for tuning into the stream. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you are new to the channel. We're growing really rapidly. It's fantastic. We're having if you're new, I highly recommend you check out some of my my interviews, both my interviews with dudes and my interviews with my fellow porn co-stars. They are very insightful and quite often very funny as well. Some fantastic content there. And for the next week we'll be I'll try and keep the streams a little bit shorter than this over the next week because I'll be in Miami, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to bring most of my setup with me. Probably just this camera. Definitely going to be able to bring the green screen with me to Miami. So I'll be streaming from my hotel room while I'm out there, and I fly on from Wednesday to Friday. So with that, do we have one more question in here? Sterling, you should do after live stream scenes with all the chicks on your podcast. All the bin chickens would probably sign up to my OnlyFans. Well, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if you guys want to see that shit. But there's plenty of people who do, so there we go. All right. Catch you next time.